Hi children, today we will start the lesson Agriculture in Social Studies. Agriculture in Social Studies. You know very well, India is one of the most important agricultural countries. Many of your fathers are farmers, especially hostel children. Almost all of your parents are farmers. So without farmers, any country cannot stay, and without agriculture, any country cannot survive. Agriculture gives food to us. So we will go for that lesson from now. So India is an important agricultural country, I said. Why? We have to ask a question. First of all, you know the population of India? It is almost 135 crores now. So out of this 135 crores, 85 crores of farmers, they depend on agriculture. That means 2/3 of India's population depends on agriculture. How much? 2/3. 2/3 of India's population depends on agriculture. And agriculture is a primary activity. Without agriculture, most of the people cannot survive in this country. So it is called primary activity. Agriculture produces all types of food grains we consume. For example, rice, wheat, cereals, and all the other food crops like vegetables and fruits. So agriculture produces all type of food grains. It also produces raw materials for all the industries based on agriculture. Raw materials for all the agricultural based industries. Then it produces tea, coffee and spices. You know spices like cardamom, cinnamon, chilies, all these things come under spices. And all these crops, tea, coffee and spices, they are exported to foreign countries. It brings in lots of foreign exchange. Foreign exchange means foreign money to our country. So agriculture plays an important role in foreign exports also. That's why India is called an important agricultural country. They'll ask you this question. Why is India an important agricultural country? What are the points? We will recall once. First one, 2/3 of India's population depends on agriculture. That means 85 crores of people, they depend on agriculture. Agriculture is a primary activity. It produces all types of food grains we consume. And it produces raw materials for all the industries based on agriculture. Tea, coffee and spices. These crops are exported to foreign countries and they bring in lots of foreign exchanges. That's why India is called an important agricultural country. So can you say some of the industries based on agriculture? Some industries. For example, rice mills, flour mills, tea industry, coffee industry, rubber industry, food processing units, all these industries, they depend on agriculture. Next we go for types of farming. What types of farming there in India? So now from beginning, agriculture is an important economic activity for all the Indians. From Stone Age, our forefathers, they have been practicing agriculture. But the methods have changed year by year. At the beginning, they did not know how to cultivate. They followed primitive methods, very old methods. Then animals were used, like cows and buffaloes, for plowing the lands. Now, lots of changes. Modern technology in using fertilizers as well as in machines. Modern technology has come forward. So now, the methods of cultivation changed over years. And these methods of cultivation depends on 3 factors. How many factors? 3 factors. The first one is physical environment. What is the first one? Physical environment. Physical environment means the area and its surroundings. How it looks. Like, is it a desert or a plain or a plateau or a hilly area? How much rainfall is there? What about the temperature? All these factors include in physical environment. So the methods of production depends on physical environment. And the second one is technological know-how. Technological know-how. What do you mean by technological know-how? What type of technology the people are using in a particular area. How do they know? How much they know? And how far they are good at technology. That is called a technological know-how. And the third factor is socio-cultural practices. Socio-cultural practices. That means in a particular area, what type of society is there? What type of people are living? What is their culture? How do they follow? This is called socio-cultural practices. For example, North Indians, they prefer wheat, whereas South Indians, they prefer rice. Because of the society. We like rice, they like wheat. That is called socio-cultural practices. So overall, the farming methods, it depends on three factors: physical environment, technological know-how, and socio-cultural practices. The next one, how many types of farmings are there in India? How it is followed in different areas? There are two types of farmings. First one is subsistence farming. Subsistence farming. What's the meaning of subsistence? To survive, to live. So subsistence farming means any type of farming done for our survival, to live. For example, farmers produce rice, wheat, cereals and vegetables for our survival. So all these crops are produced under subsistence farming. Means we produce crops for our survival, our living. So that is called subsistence farming. And the second one is commercial farming. Commercial means what? For sale, for selling. Farmer cannot produce all the food crops for the whole year. He also needs some money. So for money, he has to take some more crops. So he goes for cultivation of some crops which brings him money. Such type of crops are called cash crops, and such type of farming is called commercial farming. So commercial farming is done for taking some crops, cultivating it and getting some cash, getting some money for the farmer. That is called commercial farming. So in overall India, there are two types of farming. Subsistence farming, that means farming for the purpose of survival. Commercial farming means farming for the purpose of getting money. India is an agricultural country. Why? 2/3 of population depends on agriculture. It is a primary activity. Food grains are produced mainly by agriculture. Agriculture produces raw materials for industries, and crops like tea, coffee and spices are exported to other countries, and we get a lot of foreign exchange. So India is an important agricultural country. Then we went for types of farming. In types of farming there are two: subsistence farming, farming for survival; commercial farming, farming for getting some money. Then we have methods of cultivation. Three factors decide the methods of cultivation: physical environment, technological know-how and socio-cultural practices. Two types of farming: subsistence farming and commercial farming. Now we will go for the first one, subsistence farming, especially primitive subsistence farming. What do you mean by primitive? It means ancient, old. Presently the tribals, subsistence, survival farming. So the farming done by tribals for their survival, that is called primitive subsistence farming. Do you understand? The farming done by tribal people for their survival, it is called a primitive subsistence farming. So where is it practiced? It is practiced in few pockets of India presently, especially in hilly terrains. Few patches of land, they are cleared by the farmers first. They plough the lands, they cultivate it properly, then they go for farms, especially crops like cereals which need less water. So what and all they use for doing this farming? They use hoe, dao and digging sticks. Hoe, dao and digging sticks. Hoe and dao means a long spade, that's all. Hoe and dao, the meaning is a long spade. So they use hoe, dao and digging sticks for this farming. It is also a family or community farming. What does it mean? whole family involves in this farming. Otherwise sometimes the whole village, the community, 10 or 15 families together, they involve in this type of farming. So this subsistence farming mostly depends on monsoon rains. You know, monsoon rains. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't come. So it is very insecure farming. They mostly depend on monsoon rains. And the farming depends on natural fertility of the soil. What is natural fertility of the soil? The earth itself will have some fertility. That is called the natural fertility of the soil. So they don't use any manure. They don't go for any fertilizer or insecticides like modern farmers. It also depends on environmental conditions. Depends on the environmental conditions in the surroundings. So subsistence farming is a family or community labored farming. Depends on monsoons. It depends on natural fertility of the soil. Also, it depends on environmental conditions. It is also called slash and burn agriculture or slash and burn farming. What is slash? Cut and burn. So farmers, what do? They cut all the trees on the hilly terrains, they burn it, they make a fresh patch of land and they cultivate there. That's why it is called slash and burn farming. Farmers, they clear the lands, then they go for cereals. After 1 or 2 cultivation, they leave that land and they go for fresh lands. They clear fresh patch of trees and they go for cultivation again. So in this way, what will happen? The first land which was already cultivated, it will be left out and it gets replenished again. Replenished means what? Revived. So the fertility of this land's soil is revived or replenished again. So the tribals go on changing the land from one part to another part. They cultivate only 1 or 2 crops in one part of land. They leave the land and they go for other parts of lands. So this is called slash and burn farming. But this farming, primitive subsistence farming, has some problems. What are the problems you see? First one, the productivity is very low. We won't get tons and tons of crops here because farmers, they don't use manure, they don't use fertilizers, they don't go for any modern inputs. So overall, the productivity in this farming is very low. That is a major problem. Second one, it depends on monsoon rains. And monsoons are very uncertain. When they come, when they go, we don't know. That is another problem. And this subsistence farming has different names in different parts of the country. For example, if we take northeastern states, what is Norm? Nagaland, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram. For 4 states, I have given a short name. Norm, Nagaland, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram. In all these 4 states, this farming is called jamming. Jamming. You can also call jumming. It is called Pamlo in Manipur. What is the name? Pamlo in Manipur. It is called Dippa in Bastar districts of Chhattisgarh and Andaman Nicobar Islands. So it has different names in different parts of our country. Let me conclude this part with this. So let me recall once. What is primitive subsistence farming? Primitive means very old. Subsistence means survival. So the very old method of farming done by tribals. It is practiced in hilly terrains. They use hoe, dao and digging sticks. Hoe and dao means long spade. Family community labor. Depends on monsoon. It depends on natural fertility of the soil. Environmental conditions. It is also called slash and burn agriculture. Major problem of this agriculture is low productivity. It has different names in different parts of the country. Go through all the different names and make it perfect.